Hello, and welcome to the Week 20 devlog for QuiVr, my HTC Vive archery game. Again, we've skipped Week 19 due to unforeseen circumstances. There was a lot of stuff to get done this week, but that just means that this devlog has a lot more interesting things to show. So I'm going to start out with some of the performance improvements. There have been a number of minor fixes, both to things like the UI system and the arrows being fired that have marginally increased performance. But this week's major upgrade to the performance is the new terrain system. If you look down, you may notice that the terrain looks a bit different, but the intent was that it didn't change very much. The reason it does look different is because we're no longer using Unity terrain. Instead, this is a normal 3D mesh model. Thanks to Anton Hand from Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades, who kind of held my hand a little bit through working on replacing that system. Unity terrain is notoriously bad for performance. And the benefit of this is that there is no wasted mesh. Before, outside of the canyon, there was a lot of just blank terrain that was still being created and used, even though nobody ever saw it. Now the terrain kind of stops once it gets up to a certain point and just kind of disappears. The terrain system had a lot of features and systems that I wasn't using, so it was hurting the performance of the game without giving us any benefit. This new terrain system, which should look very similar, but is no longer using any of those extra features, as well as a custom shader that is much more performance friendly, should give a serious boost to people's performance, especially on lower end CPUs. So thanks very much to Anton Hand in his help in doing this, and I think that everybody is going to benefit from this change. The gameplay lab, which last video was the projectiles, has changed now into a new area that I thought was pretty cool. And this is more of a test of the projectile system in a useful, more interactive area instead of just enemies shooting at you while they're running around, as well as a new feature, which is the high score system. So our friend the owl here, Araleth, he is the main focus of this game, and I'm just going to shut up and show you what this new gameplay lab is all about.
Congratulations! Once again, you have proven that you can shoot a defenseless owl. Let me prove to you now why that was a bad idea. Prepare to learn your lesson. Painfully. It doesn't get funnier. Well, actually it does.
So that's a little mini game, kind of a spacing or a kind of Galaga, but with owls. The high score system, you can see I scored 300 there. The high scores are now absolutely ridiculous. My best score ever, even before I reset my own scores, was 1050, I think, 1050, and now people are doubling that. It's just incredibly impressive. There are a number of different types of owls that spawn as you get farther into the game, but I'm incredibly impressed with the scores that people are able to achieve here. So this system is working pretty well. There's a lot of different stats I can use as scoreboards. This happens to be points made in this game, but things like accuracy, highest wave. There are lots of things that I can plug right into this high score system to show leaderboards anywhere in the game. So this is a really cool system, and I'm just kind of making sure that it all works even with tons and tons of scores to parse through. As well as I wanted to give Araleth here a little bit more time to shine. So if we go back to the keep, we'll show some of the other new really big thing which was done just a couple days ago, which has been the culmination of most of the work here in this week's development. So if we start a game, most everything is the same up until the end of the game. So we'll have to get to the end of the wave to see the new feature. And the intent behind this entire system is creating a dynamic difficulty system. So this week we have the first part of it, of a kind of two-part system, which is the statistics aggregation and giving you a score for the wave. So here we go. So we see a number of different statistics that are given for the game, the round that we just played. Up there was damage taken, time taken, accuracy, and I forget what the fourth one was. But they give you a raw score, so at longest shot. So they give you a raw score, and then they also give you a kind of red or green value, which is kind of plus or minus 2. And the way that the whole system works is that you, the host in multiplayer, or you, if you're just doing a single player game, records the information about your particular wave and then asks a server for what the current global average is for all of those different statistics were, as well as adding your new data point to that information. I realize now that damage taken should be probably positive for lower damage taken. So the way it works is those red and green numbers are your deviation from the average using a standard deviation. So if you have +1, then you are one full standard deviation above the average for this wave and player combination. And so there's a different statistics for each wave, and each wave at different player numbers. So you could do wave 3 with 2 players is different than wave 3 with 1 player. You're compared to different statistics because there are more enemies and things like that. And then wave 5 and 6 with 1 or 2 players, or with 1 player, is different than wave 7 with 1 player. So you get compared to your own statistical block. And using those standard deviations, you get a final score based on 100 being perfectly average. So we're at wave 5 now, but we went to wave 8 because we did better than the average. Now, currently, the formula for determining which wave we go to is really just a placeholder thing. This whole system, the first week is just about the statistic aggregation, grabbing statistics about the waves, uploading them to the server, and keeping them for use later so that anybody can go ahead and pull down the statistics to compare themselves and get a score for their performance in that particular wave. Next week is going to be the implementation of the second part of this system, which is the actual difficulty selection based on your score. So we took a little bit of extra time, but we had higher accuracy and a little bit longer shot. So we get we're going to probably go up to wave 10. Yep, there we go. So this system, I think, is really cool, and it takes out all subjectivity from the difficulty curve process, where the intent is that I'm also keeping track of whether you won or lost the round, and using that as well as damage taken, I should be able to figure out a good difficulty curve for any group. Let's say if I want the general game to be 10 waves long, based on your performance, I can select the next wave to kind of always give you some difficulty throughout your entire play process without making you wait 30 minutes to get up to the higher waves if that's what is challenging for you. This is also a direct response to people asking to have a difficulty selection. So in games like Space Pirate Trainer, you're able to pick a higher wave if you've gotten there. And while I definitely understand that that's a good system, it's also UI based, like you have to go in and select something like that, and I don't really want to add a UI selector for something like that. So the idea is that the game figures out how good you are by watching you play a couple rounds and then very quickly pulls you into the correct difficulty that you're capable of handling. So it should be a totally hands-off approach, and it is more accurate the more games that are played. So again, this week is just the statistic aggregation, so figuring out what the average values for each wave are. And then next week is going to be really creating some type of useful formula that is changing based on progression and what your average values are for all of these statistics, so that it just tries to give you a good challenge every wave. So you may start out at wave 1, but then you'll very quickly go into much harder waves if you're better. And likewise, if you're just starting out, you'll be eased into the gameplay by the game recognizing that you maybe have lower scores than average, so it'll keep you with a much simpler set of enemies so that you get accustomed to the game. Other things that are being worked on, the ability system is going to get an overhaul relatively soon, because I don't really like, and I know that I've heard a number of people say the same thing, that most of these abilities are random chances, and that's not very fun. There's a lot more strategy to be gained out of this system by having abilities that you're able to actually control. So I'm right now working on some type of kind of bow locked UI system to show you what cooldowns and what you have available to you, and I'll be using that in a way to kind of let you control when your abilities are used. So we still have the trigger on the bow hand, and I think that'll be the first thing that I'll use as a ability modifier, because that it's a really easy thing. It's pretty intuitive, and I feel like that's probably going to be the easiest thing to use. So expect in the near future to see things like the flash freeze and the chain lightning be related to your bow hand, where you can choose to make a particular arrow effective in that regard. So I'm going to let the enemies kind of take out the keep now. Again, I am continuing to appreciate everybody submitting bugs. There was a bug with this system earlier today, actually, and people were able to show me the error report, describe what was happening, and I was able to get it fixed within an hour of seeing the bug report. So I'm very active in the community. If you see a bug, don't hesitate to post it, or at least vote your approval of, yeah, I can recreate this by doing this if the bug is already posted somewhere. It's very helpful to making sure that the game continues to progress. Yeah, so we're going to be doing a lot more not so much PR, but sharing a bit of some of the other things that are going on with the game. There's a lot of things being worked on. Custom art to replace literally everything in the game is being worked on right now. There's a bunch of really cool stuff, and I cannot wait to show you guys. We're working very hard on the full design document so that we have a list of things that we're planning for the game, both in early access and after. what that roadmap looks like, and we are planning on releasing the entire over 20-page document to the public. So we're not just going to give you a little PDF picture of what the roadmap looks like for the next month with just kind of little tagline bullet points. We're going to publish out the entire document, what everything is meant to be, and we are very anxious to hear feedback on information like that because while it's not generally common to do things like that, I think one of the big reasons that the game has been so successful as it is right now in getting people to play and give feedback and just kind of come back to the game is how open we've been with the community about everything that's going on in the game. Occasionally there are times where I'm just kind of working really hard on a kind of a back-end system that is just needed for the infrastructure to get a particular feature working, and so I won't update the game for a couple days just because it doesn't really affect anybody, even if I did do an update. But again, the updates generally multiple times a week. We're really trying to stay engaged with the community, get community feedback, and take suggestions because, as I've said many times, some of the best features in the game right now are due to community suggestions. So I really appreciate everybody helping out and submitting ideas. And I think it really, having this VR community so small and tight-knit as it is right now, it's just really cool because everybody kind of while they don't know each other, the names of people who are really engaged in the community are pretty well known, and it's a small enough group of people that you get kind of the same people really helping out a lot. So make sure you're one of them and are helping out with not only this game but everybody's games because everybody really appreciates awesome feedback, bug reports. Just do it in a nice way, and everybody benefits. So thanks again. I have a lot of work to do in getting that system to work, but I think that the end result is going to be really cool and is going to pave the way for a much more engaging difficulty system for the game, where you're always kind of put to the test, regardless of how good you are, without overwhelming new players. So thanks very much. I look forward to your continued feedback, and I hope to see you guys in game. Thanks.